Hey, what's going on, guys? Cup of Soup TCG here, back again with a brand new video. And today for you guys, I will be deck profiling my Tenyi deck profile for the September 2020 format. I recently picked up this deck once the Megatins came out, as it was a really cheap, affordable deck, costing me no more than $50 for the core. This is in Australian dollars, obviously, and I figured I would showcase it to you guys so you guys can get a sort of feel for what this deck is, for how it runs, etc, etc. Anyway, before we get into the profile, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you'd like to see more videos like this or any other videos you would like to see from me. Anyway, let's get into the monster lineup. So first, we're playing 3 Tenyi Ashuna. Now, before I get into the rest of the Tenyis, all of the Tenyis have the ability where if we control no effect monsters, we can special summon them from our hand, and if we control a face-up non-effect, we can banish the card from our hand or grave to summon a Tenyi monster from our deck. So in Ashuna's case, we can special summon 1 Tenyi from our deck. We're also playing 3 Vishuddha. For Vishuddha, what he does when he is banished from our hand or from our grave, we get to return a card our opponent controls to the hand. This was played a lot in Orcus format when it first came out. It's just a really good blind second tool. Obviously, we're playing it at 3 as well, because being level 7 is relevant along with Ashuna, as well as it just having a really good generic effect. Next, we're also playing 3 Shathana. So Shathana is probably the best one that we could play outside of Adhara, which we'll get to later. And what this card does is that we can banish it from our hand or grave to target a monster that was destroyed by battle or card effect, and then we can special summon it, then destroy one monster our opponent controls. So it's a nice recovery play that we can have. And then lastly, for the 3 ofs, we're playing 3 Adhara. Pretty much we can banish it to target a banished Tenyi and add it back to our hand. So it's a way to recycle the worms that we use, because it actually adds worms, not just Tenyis, but it will mainly target Tenyis. Next, we're playing 1 Mapura and 1 Nahara. I personally feel that these effects are just more underwhelming out of all of them, but they do come up situationally, which is why we're playing them. What Nahara does is that we can banish this card from our hand or grave, then our opponent's monster loses 1500 attack when it declares an attack involving a Tenyi. So it's like an honest-like effect. And what Mapura does is that when our opponent activates a card or effect that targets a face-up non-effect that we control, as a quick effect, we can banish this card from our hand or grave, negate, and destroy that card. So it is nice protection. However, they are more niche effects, so that's why we're just playing them as 1 each. We're also playing 1 Mermere. What Mermere does is that during our main phase, we can reduce this card's level by 1, and if we do, special summon 1 mini Mermere token only, and we can only use this effect up to thrice per turn. This is really good for the link spamming that this deck wants to do. It's also really good for getting the Synchro play, since it is a tuner, and it's really good in combination with the Link to Tenyi that we play. Next up, we're playing triple Vanity's Fiend, because this deck does not use its normal summon, so it's a free drop onto our board. We can distribute any leftover token or Tenyi that we might have to just, act as a floodgate against our opponent, which is just really, really strong. And so there will be times where this card outright wins games by itself. Next, for hand traps, we're playing 3 Ash Blossom, 2 Ghost Ogre, and 2 Effect Veiler. Now, the reason why we are playing only 2 of these hand traps is because with the field spell, we can always draw into more cards, so we have a high chance of seeing them. Plus, there's issues with space, and in my personal preference and in my testing, this is just the ratio that I ended up enjoying and liking the most. Next, for the card I would advise the duelist, we're playing 3 Heavenly Dragon Circle. Now, what this card does is that we contribute a worm to add a worm monster from our deck to our hand, and if we tribute a non-effect monster to activate this card, we can special summon it instead but negate its effects. And during the main phase, if we control a face-up non-effect monster, we can banish this card from our grave, we can add 1 Tenyi card from our deck to the hand, and we can only use 1 effect per turn and only once that turn. So this is really good in combination with Foolish Burial Goods, which we're playing 2 of within the deck, just to send Heavenly Dragon Cycle to the grave to act as a Rhoda. However, the attributing effect is also really good as well if we need to get out a certain Tenyi. We can also discard it off Shaman as well to get its graveyard effect. Overall, a really solid card for the deck. Next, we're playing 3 Vessel of the Dragon Cycle. Pretty much what this card does is that we can send a worm from our deck to our grave. Then, if we control a face-up non-effect monster, we can add one. We can add one Tenyi monster with a different name from the monster sent to the grave. Now, this is just Foolish Burial, plus it acts as a Rhoda in a sense if we have a non-effect monster. Really strong, arguably the best card within the archetype. That's why we always want to see it. Play at 3, it helps set up Mare combos, etc. Next, I am playing 2 Pot of Avarice, only playing 2 because there will be, like, you can always activate it at the end of your combo. However, you may be shuffling away resources that you could use. This is mainly used to put back extra deck pieces like our monks, like our shamans, whatever it might be, so we can grind a little bit more with our opponent, because we do go through the extra deck quite quickly, and it just helps us in those longer, more drawn out games. I play this over Desires as I don't really want to banish any of my Tenyi names. Alongside the Vessels, we're also playing one Foolish. Once again, this just dumps whatever we might need. It's free, helps set up various combo lines that we might need to go through. And lastly, for the spells, we're playing one Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi. This is searchable through the card out of Rise of the Duelist, the Heavenly Dragon Circle, so that's why we're only playing it as a one-of. It doesn't have the greatest effect. Arguably the best effect, in my opinion, is that if our opponent special summons an effect monster while we control a face-down monster on a non-effect, except during the damage step, we can draw 2 cards. Gets us into more hand traps, gets us into monsters for follow-up plays, etc. Now for the traps, we're playing 2 Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi. It's like an Infernity Barrier for the deck, except it does not destroy, which is the downside of it. However, when this set card is destroyed, it has Awakening the Dragon-like effect, where we can special summon a non-effect monster from our extra deck. Now, I'm not playing any cute, fun cards like Big Koala or Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. However, if you could always play that if you want to, just for a little bit of fun at locals. However, in a more competitive build, I would go against that. Now, lastly, we are playing a Skill Drain as well, just mainly because most of our monsters focus on being big and beefy. We have plenty of grave effects anyway, so we're not too hindered by this. The main thing that we want to really worry about is that we can't, Shaman, we can't use our Link 4, we can't use the Link 3, so we do miss out on some effects, but however, in the end, this is a really strong floodgate. It synergizes well for the most part, because in combination with Berserker of the Tenyi, and just making these big bodies, we can sort of just beat over our opponent, and they can't really do much about it. Anyway, on to the extra deck. We're playing Triple Monk. This is pretty standard, nothing really much to say. Yeah, it is the easiest non-effect monster to get in the deck to turn on all of our Tenyi grave effects. So that's why we're playing it at 3. You will go through this guy quite a lot. This is why we're also playing Avarice, so we can make sure we can recycle him in the grindier games. Next, we're also playing 2 Shaman of the Tenyi. This card is also really good for establishing bigger boards, for extending our combos. So what this card does is that we can discard 1 card, then target a worm monster in our grave, special summon it. Also for the rest of this turn, we cannot activate effects of monsters special summoned from the extra deck except Tenyi monsters. When an attack is declared involving your face-up non-effect monster, we can target 1 card our opponent controls, destroy it. So this is nice to get a little bit extra pops, a couple extra pops, some more disruption to help break our opponent's board when we need to go second. And also it's just good with, like, in combination with Mare to make big link boards that our opponent can't really out. Next, we're playing 2 Berserker of the Tenyi, only playing 2 because we obviously need space for some of the other cards that we're playing. Plus, he's generally fine at 2. You don't really make a third if ever. So that's why I feel that we only really gotta play him at 2. And that's about it. Next, we're playing 1 Draco Masters of the Tenyi. I really like this card. So what this card says is that it cannot be destroyed by battle with an effect monster, and if we control no other effect monsters, we can destroy effect monsters your opponent controls up to the number of non-effect monsters you control and in our grave. So most of the time we'll have about 2 to 3 non-effect monsters, so this card is going to be at least popping 3 cards. So really nice once again for going second to clear boards. Also helps in like those slower games or those simplified game states. Having this card out can really win a lot of those kind of games. And for the last Tenyi Link monster, we're playing one Sasara. This came out in Dual Overload, and what this card does is that we can, if we while we control a face-up non-effect monster, monsters our opponent controls cannot target effect monsters for attacks. Also, your opponent cannot target effect monsters on the field with card effects. As a quick effect, we can target an effect monster and our opponent controls special summon one Tenyi Spirit token, where its attack becomes equal to the target monster's original attack. So this is a really nice card, simply because in combination with some vanilla Tenyis or with its own effect, it becomes a Towers-like card. We could potentially have this plus Shaman plus any vanilla, and then we're looking at a really tough board to sort of crack, especially also with the field spell, which adds another level of protection for our non-effect portion of the board, which is really troubling for a lot of decks that focus on targeted removal. And then we're also playing one Unchained Abomination. This is just my budget pick. If you have the money, I would highly suggest playing an access code talker. You could play Borrow Sword in this case, which I do have, but I've just been really liking Unchained Abomination for that budget replacement for access code, which is why I have it here in the extra deck right now. Now also we're playing a Link Karibo, a land for Linkus, and a Link Spider. Now these are all used in combination with the memory tokens. Land for Linkus is also nice because it is a non-effect monster. Link Karibo and Link Spider are just there for link climbing shenanigans that we might need. Now lastly, for the Synchros, we're playing one Baxia, Brightness of the Yangtze. What this card does is that when it is Synchro summoned, we can target cards in the field up to the number of different original attributes of worm monsters used for the Synchro summon this card, shuffle them into the deck. So it's a nice go second removal sort of thing, because shuffling is just really good. Non-destructive removal is always nice. And then once per turn, we can target one card we control and a level 4 or lower monster in our grave, destroy the card on the field, and if we do special summon the other monster from our grave, that's another nice sort of effect to sort of, get certain cards out of our grave that we may need for certain plays. And lastly, we are playing the Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. This card's also got a really nice effect where when our opponent activates a monster effect as a quick effect, we can banish it, and if this attacking card destroys an effect monster by battle and sends to the grave, this card gains attack equal to destroyed monster's original attack. And also it can make a second attack on a monster during this battle phase. We can only use each effect of Draco Berserker of the Tenyi once per turn. This is just it doesn't negate, however it does get rid of monsters, which is always beneficial. It's always good. It always reduces the power of our opponent's board, and it's just really nice as well for breaking boards, for pushing through, getting damage, and ending games. Anyway guys, this has been my Tenyi deck profile. Please, once again, feel free to leave a comment down below if you have any questions, if you have any tips, if you don't like my deck profile, if any changes I should make, whatever it might be. Please feel free to leave a comment down below. I always love reading your comments. They're always supportive. They're always great. And I feel like I grow day by day just by reading these comments and trying to make my content better. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Cup of Soup TCG, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.